So-called replacement isn't as insignificant as Democrats or some fact-checkers have claimed. Joining me now is MSNBC correspondent Jacob Soboroff, who recently drove to the border in Arizona. He is also the author of the New York Times bestseller, Separated: Inside an American Tragedy. So, Jacob, we've said this on this show. It's not new wall. It is replacement wall. You went down there to take a look. It's accurate, but it doesn't tell the full story, does it?
No, it doesn't, and I'm glad you said that. I've said the same thing as well, and it turns out that we were all incorrect. The reality is that while the Democrats and fact-checkers might technically be right, it is not that simple, and when you go down there and look for yourself, it's easy to understand why. Check this out, Katie.
The borderlands of Arizona's Coronado National Memorial are vast and remote, and where we were headed, there's never been a physical wall.
These are towers that have all kinds of different equipment on there that the Border Patrol uses for surveillance and for communications. They've been monitoring these areas of the border for a long time with this technology now. In many places, it's totally sufficient.
The Border Patrol has told us that that type of technology in a lot of places is a technological border wall.
Yeah, and in a place where there's so few people crossing, it's not necessary to really have anything else.
But priorities are changing. Conservationists Randy Siraglio and Russ McSpadden have been monitoring the construction, and they offered to show us.
So that's where we just came down from a little while ago. That's the Montezuma's Pass. And then if you look over here, these are the flat grasslands. That's existing border wall that's already here. And Russ, over here, check it out. I'm going to throw my mask on because he's looking at the drone. Put the drone up in the air, and he's looking at what's going on up at the ridge up there.
Okay. Looks like they've blasted the road up at the top.
Russ piloted the drone to where no wall existed before, passing over water sprayers and trucks hauling out chunks of rock until it reached the top of the nearby mountain.
We heard a blast earlier. I'm seeing a bulldozer pulling rock off the mountain and loading. At least 3 full-size dump trucks so far have come down.
Oh, yeah, there it is. So that's the bulldozer on the ridge.
So, yeah, they're taking the mountain down and hauling it out.
Data provided to NBC News by Customs and Border Protection concedes that of the 341 miles of wall the Trump administration has built so far, only 9 miles are in places where there wasn't a barrier already, places like the top of this mountain. But to Randy and Russ, that misses the point.
On the other side, there's nothing but vehicle barriers. There's hundreds of miles of vehicle barriers that could be replaced by border wall and are in the process of being replaced. And that's just like building a new wall.
To see what he meant, the next morning we drove to Y, Arizona, near Organ Pipe Cactus National Monument, where we met Lakin Jordahl, a colleague of Randy and Russ and a former Park Service wilderness fellow.
This is the meat spot where we met Lakin. Come on, and look what we just saw. This is a truck filled with steel bollards.
They'll place this on a 10-foot deep foundation with a bunch of rebar, and then they fill these bollards with concrete. So we're talking a huge amount of concrete and a huge amount of water that they're actually sucking out of the ground in order to mix concrete for this wall.
So this guy is going to drive these down onto the National Monument?
Yep, basically into the heart of the Sonora Desert to build this wall in the middle of a wilderness area. The only area
Lakin took us to that wilderness area.
When we hear people talking about that President Trump is only really building a handful of miles of new wall, and the rest of it is replacement almost in a dismissive way, it's just hundreds of miles of replacement. There was already something there. That something is this. And they're replacing it
with this.
With this.
Yeah, this idea that it's just a replacement, at best it's misguided. At worst, it's a complete, flat-out lie. I think people don't want to give the administration a win on that, but the reality is the wall's going up.
I think there's a tendency for people who are anti the president to say he's failed in his building of the wall.
As far as him failing, no, he didn't fail. He's building the wall. Like, he's doing exactly what he said he would do.